been here before. Actually, you were doing it right. I think we just kind of did a shortcut. We'll stand behind you. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jill Stearns, the Superintendent President at Cuesta College, and it is an honor to welcome you here this afternoon. We are rapidly approaching the one-year anniversary of Cuesta College students, faculty, and staff leaving campus to shelter at home in response to the coronavirus pandemic. We continue to look forward to a full return to campus and appreciate the City and County of San Luis Obispo's efforts that allow us to provide a safe learning environment and build better futures. I am so pleased to be standing here today at the Cuesta College campus vaccination site to welcome Governor Gavin Newsom. It is the utmost privilege for Cuesta College to partner with the San Luis Obispo County in the continued fight against the pandemic. We are grateful to have a willing partner in the state of California, which prioritizes our students' needs and employee health and safeguards our local community's safety and well-being. Over 1,000 community members are being vaccinated at this site each day. It's my pleasure to now welcome San Luis Obispo Mayor Heidi Harmon. Thank you so much. Thank you and welcome to you, sir, Gavin Newsom, and thank you so much for the COVID support funding and especially the crucial homelessness funding that went to the counties during this difficult time. That's been crucial for us. And this is a great opportunity for me to also say thank you so much to our public health officer, Dr. Penny Bornstein, for truly being a lighthouse of guidance in this unprecedented storm. And to the regional incident management team for setting up the regional public vaccination points. And also want to welcome my colleagues, Supervisors Gibson, Supervisor Compton, Supervisor Ortiz-Legg. Welcome to the team, Mayor Martin, and Councilmember Addis as well. And it's great to be here on the campus of Cuesta, of which both myself and my children are proud alums. And so I just want to also thank the governor for prioritizing vaccinating educators and everyone who contributes to getting our students back to school. Our families with young children are getting to the breaking point, as many of you are probably experiencing firsthand or certainly hearing about from your friends. And the prioritization of educators will be essential for so many of our young families. My parents just got their vaccines this past week, and I've missed them so much, and I know that so many of you are missing your loved ones as well, and I'm really looking forward to finally getting a chance to see them when the time is right. And I personally can't wait to get my vaccine when it's my turn, and I encourage everyone to get one when you are eligible and to not wait. And you can sign up for your vaccination at recoverslow.org and to be notified when it is your turn to be vaccinated. I just want to thank the San Luis Obispo community at large for continuing to take this seriously, continuing to wear masks, to social distance, to wash your hands. So we've been through so much this past year, and I know that we've gotten through it, and we've gotten through it together, even though it's been so hard. And we may have our differences, but I hope that we can all agree that vaccines offer a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us. And so now I would like to invite Supervisor Compton to say a few words. I don't know.
Don't want to contaminate. Good afternoon. I want to thank Governor Newsom for coming here today and visiting our beautiful county and taking a tour of one of our county organized vaccination clinics. Our county is resilient and strong, and we've come together to respond in a proactive and extraordinary way. While nearly 20,000 people in SLO County have contracted COVID-19, and our community has lost more than 230 members to this disease, we continue to increase our ICU bed capacity and decrease our hospitalization cases. Our case rate has also decreased, and I'm happy to say we will be advancing to the red tier, yay, of the state's blueprint for a safer economy tomorrow. We're very excited about that. I want to thank our County Health Officer Penny Bornstein, who's here today, and our County Administrative Officer Wade Horton, who is not here today. They started with the beginning of this process and have seen it through every day, hundreds of hours, hundreds of decisions, hundreds of people. They stood up our alternate care site at Cal Poly with our partners with Cal Poly to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible. So our county is very grateful for their expertise and their services to our residents. Our county public health workforce, disaster service workers, and volunteers have worked tirelessly in managing this pandemic and working on behalf of our county residents for over a year now. So I want to thank all of them too. We are also grateful to Cuesta College and Jill Stearns, who's here, and in providing the space for our COVID-19 vaccination clinics here at Cuesta College. This clinic is one of 3 county-operated COVID-19 vaccination clinics that have provided over 47,000 doses of COVID-19 to our county residents. Just last week, our public health department administered almost 10,000 doses, and our goal is to vaccinate 15,000 people combined per week at these 3 sites, if we have the vaccine supply to do that. So we're asking you for as many vaccines as we can get. These clinics are a true example of the way our counties, our cities, and our first responders and organizations have come together to show our resilience and our teamwork. At these clinics, we have city and county disaster service workers, paramedics, EMTs from our local ambulance providers, local Medical Reserve Corps member volunteers, and even traveling medical professionals from around the county. We're grateful for the collaboration of all of these entities and look forward to the increasing vaccine supply that will help us bring these 3 sites up to full capacity, as well as increasing our supply available to local pharmacies and other healthcare providers. I hope that after today, Governor Newsom has seen how effective our programs can be and how we're fully able to administer as many vaccines as we can get our hands on. So before I turn it over to Supervisor Bruce Gibson, and as mentioned earlier, Supervisor Dawn Ortiz-Leg is here too today, I'd like to take this opportunity to mention our new appointment registry program, which goes into effect today. We talked about it at the Board of Supervisors this morning, but if you didn't hear about it, all this information and how to sign up can be found at recoverslo, recoverslo.org/vaccine. So now I will pass it over to my counterpart, Supervisor Bruce Gibson.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Governor, for taking the time to be with us today, and welcome to San Luis Obispo County. What we have seen here today is a testament to the power of partnership. Partnership between the county, our cities, our educational community, our volunteers, our first responders, and so many more who have come together to get the vaccination program rolling here. And as I think about it, that sense of partnership is going to be key to our future. I speak to you in part as a member of the State Associations of Counties Executive Committee, and we have been in deep conversation with your administration and greatly appreciate, especially in recent weeks, their outreach to us and their willingness to listen to folks at the local level, to really form a strong partnership that I think is going to be key to not just being successful in vaccination, but being successful in all the aspects of recovering from this terrible pandemic. We know we have work ahead of us. We have work in the equitable distribution of vaccines, for one. Beyond that, we have work to rebuild our economy, open it up as quickly as public health guidance would dictate, to deal with the impacts of that. For instance, things like the pandemic has revealed weaknesses in our distribution of broadband internet connection. And again, counties all over the state are dramatically interested in working with you on that. We also have, as you well know, challenges ahead dealing with homelessness. So there's no lack of things that we are facing. There's no lack of energy and will for us to take on these things. And again, I want to emphasize my appreciation on behalf of our Board of Supervisors, our local jurisdictions, and counties all over the state for your engagement on this. With that, I'm in the situation of introducing a man who literally needs no introduction, so I will simply pass the mic over to the Governor of California, Mr. Gavin Newsom. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Penny, Wonderful job. Thank you. And Supervisor, thank you for generous words. And Madam Mayor, thank you for wearing red, because you are moving officially today in the red tier. The county then will, I imagine, adopt some new strategies and protocols tomorrow. One of 7 counties moving into the red tier, encouraged by reduction in case rates and a reduction in positivity rate. Let me just punctuate that. The positivity rate now in the state of California is down to 2.3%. Just put this in perspective. 1 month ago today, it was at 6.4. Today, down to 2.3. 1 month ago today, we reported over 12,000 cases, 2,500 cases reported today. Hospitalizations in the last 2 weeks are down 41%. ICUs down 43% just in the last 2 weeks. So we're in a position we haven't been in many, many months. We're in fact a position that only 7 other states in the country can lay claim in terms of the positivity rate, meaning we're the 8th lowest in the nation. And so we're making real progress. You've made real progress. The county supervisors have made real progress. Supervisor, you've made progress. Your county health officials, the good work you've done on non-pharmaceutical interventions like wearing face coverings, doing the requisite work in terms of being thoughtful about being socially distanced and physically distanced from one another, and the deep sanitation that's brought us to this point. But we recognize that we still have work to do. And that's why it's incumbent upon us to remain vigilant over the course of the next number of months as we transition out of this pandemic. There's not just light at the end of the tunnel, there's bright light at the end of this tunnel. We've now administered 9.3 million doses of vaccine, more than all but 6 nations in the world. No other state has come close to administering more doses of vaccines than the state of California. You're doing it at remarkable speed and efficiency. The fact that you're getting well north of 90% of your shots into people's arms out of the freezers in a very short period of time is testament to the collective leadership that is assembled here today. And so I wanted to come here to thank you for that work, to encourage you to continue to do more, recognizing, yes, Supervisor, the biggest constraint is manufactured supply. Manufactured supply. The state doesn't have 1 dose of vaccine. There's no cache. There's no refrigerator, freezer. There's no warehouse. It all comes directly from the federal government, directly from the manufacturers. We're trying to get it out as quickly as possible. And the good news is we administered 1.65 million doses last week. And we are encouraged that this will be the first week where we're actually going to get slightly more doses than we've been administering in the last few weeks, meaning we're anticipating 1.64 million doses in the next week, and we also are anticipating the highly anticipated single-dose J&J vaccine. Now, I want to level set on that. We were hoping to get 380,300 doses this week. We're now told, well, we can order 320,100 doses for next week. So just know there'll be hundreds of thousands of J&J doses, but it doesn't look like we'll be receiving but a few thousand at a few selected sites, probably the FEMA sites, Northern and Southern California, this week. But next week, you should expect to have now more choice, more voice as a consumer, Moderna, Pfizer, and now the single dose J&J. And I can only say this, when it's your turn, just say yes to whatever dose that you are being offered. I would take without a hesitation, without exception. I'll wait my turn. But when it comes my turn, if they say J&J, I say yes. They say Moderna, yes. They say Pfizer, yes. And we're looking forward to having the opportunity to have even more options in the upcoming months. I want to just make a point, though, where we are here today. Community college is really the backbone of our higher education system. It's the front door for 2/3 of our outstanding students, regardless of time of life. It's more of a state of mind, our student body and our community colleges. And I'm very pleased that just last week we moved $100 million of emergency appropriation to support our community colleges, to support those that may have dropped off the radar a little bit because of this pandemic, trying to pull them back in, provide emergency financial aid, also addressing food insecurity and homelessness as it relates to the system as well. And so just want you to know that that was one of the early actions we took that was officially signed last week, including $2 billion of small business grants, not loans, going directly to small businesses, building on $500 million that we have distributed over the course of the last few weeks, $5,000 to $25,000 grants. Those are now available, and we are moving those grants out, including more money for food banks, for diapers, child care over $400 million, and direct stimulus checks. We didn't wait for the federal government. We're providing 6 million Californians about $3.8 billion in direct stimulus checks. Those should be arriving over the course of the next few weeks. Final point I want to emphasize, being appropriate not to. I want to thank all of you, Supervisor, all of you, Mayor, for prioritizing our educators. And I say educators broadly, because school requires teachers, yes, but also requires custodial staff. It requires support staff, bus drivers. It requires the staff that keeps our kids fed and safe and healthy, mentally, not just physically. And so we have been prioritizing, 35 counties have prioritized educators, but we have also set aside 10% of all of our first dose vaccines, a minimum of 75,000 a week, to our educators. And we are also setting aside educator days, Thursday and Friday, both in Northern and Southern California at the FEMA sites. They'll be set aside exclusively for educators. So we are really fast tracking that effort. We didn't wait for federal government, no permission. We are moving and driving because we are committed to getting our kids safely back into school. This is a top priority. And we backed it up not only by prioritizing vaccines, but $6.6 billion that we just announced yesterday that will be, we hope, finally voted on Thursday, signed on Friday, to get those dollars out to school districts, large and small, all up and down the state, to safely reopen our schools, to get the PPE, to get the ventilation, to deal with the distancing in our schools and all of the other related issues that will come up, including addressing and closing learning loss. $4.6 billion of that is to reimagine the school year. We don't have to be tied to the agrarian schedule. We could extend that school year, extend the school day, provide more mental health support, provide more intensive interventions in order to get our kids back into school. So encouraged by the progress and very, very thankful to all the work that you have done down here in one of the world's, not just California's, most spectacular places, San Luis Obispo. So it's wonderful to be back here. Happy, of course, all of us, Supervisor, to take any questions.
Governor, a question for you. As San Luis Obispo County moves into the red tier, as do some of the other counties, how concerned are you that California may be moving a little fast? We've heard there's variants that are of a concern. Some national health experts are saying we need to be cautious about moving too fast.
No, it's the right question. I appreciate the question. I think what we're doing is very, very, well, we're working on the basis of the speed and rate of transmission. We're being sober, moving tier to tier, methodically, working through a tiered system that's well established, well designed, working with local health officers. We're not pulling the plug or pulling the rug out as other states have done. We still very much believe in the masking policies. We're not touching that. We believe in a tiering strategy, which means we move deliberatively, but we don't overly indulge in terms of reverting back to the way things were until the data, until the science, until the transmission of this disease warrants that move. So we are moving deliberatively, but it's on the basis of the transmission rates of the community spread. And so I think we're doing it very thoughtfully. And I know as a small business person myself, can't do it fast enough, but the quickest way to reopen the economy and to get us back, and we're going to come roaring back. I don't think this. I mean, mark my words, this economy is going to come roaring back. Our hotels, our restaurants, our entertainment, we're going to come roaring back once this pandemic is behind us. And we're just a number of months away from getting to herd immunity, getting enough vaccines in people's arms, and getting back to a sense of normalcy, but with excitement and enthusiasm of the resiliency that we have all borne and the strength of our perseverance that we have now all inherited, having weathered this last year.
That some of the roadblocks in getting vaccines in places like this is the federal government, but some local healthcare providers are concerned about the new third-party provider in the partnership with Blue Shield. Is there something that you could do to reassure them that they'll still have a seat at the table for those conversations? Yeah,
the counties still have a seat at the table. In fact, let me just tell you, we just went into the third party. You are a beneficiary of 28% increase, this county's allocation week over week. So if that's an indication, SLO is actually in better shape than some other parts of the state that actually we had to reprioritize distribution, including, by the way, providing more support in the Central Valley, not just here on the Central Coast, to make sure we're taking care of our farm workers, take care of our food workers, which is a top priority. But you're right, it's a scarcity supply constraint. And in that, there's that push and pull county by county because we're just not in a framework where we have abundance. We're designing a system for 4 million vaccines to be administered on a weekly basis. We did 1.65 last week. We've currently designed it for about 2.7. So we have a little more work to do, but I want more transparency. That's the idea of the third-party administrator. Want to make sure we deliver on equity, not as a platitude or a platform, but we deliver on it. More pop-up sites, more mobile sites, meet people where they are, not just large mass vaccination sites. And candidly, we're not close to where we need to be. Some counties are doing great. Respectfully, not all counties are doing as well. And so that's what we're trying to do, is pivot a little bit, still not necessarily in the driver's seat, but in the front seat, counties working in partnership with the state, driving this lens of transparency, equity, data analytics, and payment incentives to really drive speed and equity as our North Star.
Governor, when are you going to open state parks like Hearst Castle?
Well, it's interesting. The vast majority of state parks are open, and I should know, of all places, I'm down here, I should know when Hearst Castle, but let me get back to you on exactly when that will reopen. But we should be moving very, very quickly here. The issue always is indoor versus outdoor. And so some of those venues that have predominance of indoor tours and the like starts to tier in the Red County frame. You're now moving in that frame. Restaurants can start to reopen, more indoor activities, including museums, including movie theaters with limitations and constraints. Today is a big day in terms of that movement, and that would include state parks. I'll get back on Hearst Castle. Make sure my team does.
Now that we're hitting almost a year of this pandemic going on, is there anything that now has changed in the landscape legislatively that you guys are planning on doing in the future? Like maybe things that weren't as much of a priority that you're now seeing like we need to pay more attention to?
Broadband. I mean, so, I came out of my budget and we put a lot of language, what we call the A pages, which just really sets the tone and tenor of what the priority is in the budget. Legislature has a package. A lot of it's challenging. I'm mindful, because a lot of it requires updating, extending, increasing revenue sources. 2/3 requirement of the legislature. It all sounds great until you actually have to move the bar and move the needle by moving the cheese so you can move the mouse, meaning you want to move the mouse, you got to move the cheese. You got to pay and incentivize different kind of behavior from our internet service providers and others. So we're working with them, the PUC, and we're working as well with the federal government. I should also note, of the $1.9 trillion package, it includes billions and billions of dollars for broadband, and we look forward to being the beneficiaries of that, matching those funds and moving forward with much more speed and determination to address that legitimate, real divide that persists in the state and country.
We only have time for one more. Governor, our county elected officials sent you several letters throughout the last year asking for guidance on the tier map through the lockdown and adding us in with the LA County. Why haven't you given them any response to those letters?
Well, I don't know about the specific letters, forgive me. When I say I receive a few letters, I'm talking about in the hundreds of thousands, and that's not to diminish any single one of those letters, which we all have a responsibility for. As it relates to how we did the regions, that was determined on the basis of public health. And we came up with 4 big regions in this state that are part of a mutual aid system as it relates to the connective tissue in terms of personnel and transportation and process are well established. So that was the framework on the tiers. As it relates to that correspondence, I'll have to go back and learn more about them.
All right.
Oh, I just see you had your hand up.
Thank you so much, Governor. We're wondering how you plan to educate, convince the population at large that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is safe and effective. A lot of people are concerned about it.
Well, if you're concerned about getting a vaccine, you only have to have one shot with J&J. J&J has never been compared. It's never been put side by side with the other vaccines. It's just been done on the basis of international analysis that includes different kinds of mutations, different kind of variants, and I appreciated that question around variants and mutations as well. As it relates to the issue that most important to you and me, death, and the issue of hospitalization, it's about as effective as the other doses. Dr. Fauci on down all saying if they have that choice, they will run and jump at it. I can assure you, I'm first in line to the extent my turn comes up. I want one dose, and I look forward to being done with it. So I think J&J should be front and center as an opportunity for all, and it's more choice. And again, we're all hoping to have a little bit more voice in the determination of what vaccine we get to choose. And as I say, 3 will be the current limitation, but there are dozens, and I mean dozens, of vaccines in advanced trials around the world. And as we progress over the next weeks and months, I can imagine more and more, not just AstraZeneca that was approved up in Canada recently, and of course in Europe, but others will be coming on the market, and we'll have even more opportunity and more choice. Thank you, guys. And just on closing, we have 213 UK variants as of today, and 5,511 West Coast variants. There's 2 West Coast variants. They're very similar, but over 5,500. So we are tracking that, and those mutations should, again, remind us of the power and potency of our decisions as it relates to face coverings and wearing masks until we hit herd immunity. So your question about being sober and thoughtful and deliberative is really important, and that's why we're never going to subscribe to the point of view of some of the other states. There was one large state today that said no masks, everything goes back to normal in the midst of a pandemic. And by the way, their positivity rate is exponentially higher than the state of California. And of course, their death rate's much higher as well. We're a little more mindful and sober of the potency of these variants and mutations as well. A little mindful and sober of the experience we had last summer, where we moved forward and ultimately had to revert back, and we don't want to do that ever again. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you so much.
Fun?
I am. I mean, you know, and just